headlines. South Korea says it's pursuing talks with North Korea despite the recent breakout of tensions between Pyongyang and Washington over fresh sanctions. Prosecutors say a leaked document claiming a former aide to President Park Geun-hye was influencing state affairs is fake. Rival political parties continue to clash over the announcement. And Indonesia's military and police say they're not giving up their search for bodies and wreckage from the AirAsia crash despite difficult weather conditions. Hello and welcome to ARIRANG News. Happy Monday, everyone. Coming to you live from Seoul, I am Kang Tae-ri. North Korea says the U.S. sanctions against the regime are a typical way of Washington showing hostility against Pyongyang. This while South Korea awaits North Korea's response on possible inter-Korean talks. Our Connie Lee reports.
South Korea aims to push ahead with plans for inter-Korean talks, despite the recent flare-up in tension between North Korea and the United States. The spokesperson from Seoul's Unification Ministry says its proposal for high-level talks with Pyongyang remains on the table, despite Washington's announcement of sanctions against the North. The country's state-run media lashed out at the U.S. on Sunday, saying the new sanctions clearly demonstrate Washington's hostility toward the regime.
The policy persistently pursued by the U.S. to stifle North Korea, groundlessly stirring up bad blood towards it, would only harden its will and resolution to defend the sovereignty of the country.
The U.S. has slapped new sanctions on 3 North Korean organizations and 10 individuals for Pyongyang's alleged cyber attack on Sony Pictures, which produced the film The Interview, a comedy about an assassination attempt on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. However, as North Korea intensified its rhetoric against the U.S., the communist state has not criticized the South as usual with verbal attacks. Pyongyang's main newspaper, the Rodong Sinmun, reported no criticism of Seoul on Sunday, and North Korea's propaganda website 우리 민족끼리 stated that the two Koreas should work together. Experts say North Korea has a motive.
By improving relations with South Korea, North Korea wants to show that the U.S. sanctions will be ineffective.
In the meantime, South Korea continues to wait on North Korea to respond to its earlier proposal for talks. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
A U.S. congressman says the new sanctions on North Korea will not deter cyber attacks from the regime. Senator Robert Menendez, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, told CNN that there needed to be real consequences for Pyongyang's actions. He also took issue with President Barack Obama calling the hack an act of cyber vandalism, saying it was a clear-cut case of terrorism. The senator also sent a letter to U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry asking North Korea be added back to the list of state sponsors of terrorism. And amid its pursuit of talks with North Korea, South Korea says it's relaxing its standards on humanitarian aid to the regime. Seoul has banned humanitarian aid to the north in the form of raw produce, limiting possibility that the aid is used for military purposes. But a private organization recently sent 20 tons of sweet potatoes to North Korea with an okay from the South Korean government. It represents the very first aid coming from South Korea in the form of raw produce since President Park Geun-hye took office nearly 2 years ago. A political scandal that's been brewing for weeks now appears to have no legs. The prosecution has determined that what they found in the recently leaked presidential documents was false. Kwon So-ah tells us more.
Prosecutors indicted former presidential secretary Cho Eun-chun on Monday on charges that he ordered a police superintendent to leak confidential documents that claimed that a former aide of President Park Geun-hye meddled in state affairs. The preliminary result of the prosecution's probe is that the allegations were false. The senior police official in question, Park Geun-hye, was indicted Saturday on similar charges that include handing over classified files to President Park Geun-hye's brother and making false accusations. On Monday, prosecutors also indicted a police officer who they say was involved in copying the documents that were leaked to the media. The scandal dates back to a report in the Segeilbo Daily in November. It began with allegations that President Park's former aide Chung Yun-hye secretly met with presidential secretaries and was seeking to undermine the current presidential chief of staff. Prosecutors say the meetings never happened. The case has stirred up the political arena in recent weeks and aroused criticism from the public, who want more transparency at the presidential office. After Monday's announcement, the ruling Saenuri party said the suspicions were absurd to begin with.
This is a breach of code of conduct that involved unverified information reported in a presidential document which led to chaos.
The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy said no one will trust in the probe's conclusion. They have called for a special investigation into the case.
The prosecution has come up with a conclusion customized to the presidential office. The truth hasn't been revealed.
The presidential office of Cheongwade says it won't be making an official comment on the prosecution's findings. 권소아, ARIRANG News.
Japan is upping its campaign and education that the body of water between Korea and Japan is its own territory. This as Japan is poised to expand its efforts to develop energy sources as well in the EC. Son Jung-in has more.
This is a video released by the Japanese government titled "Islands Once the Home of Mechi or Sea Lions." The author of a book with the same title teaches elementary school students that Korea's easternmost islets of Dokdo, Takeshima as it's known in Japan, was the habitat of sea lions where Japanese fishermen used to catch fish.
Children playing with sea lions dreamed of becoming a fisherman so they could catch fish in Takeshima.
The 17-minute-long video was uploaded onto YouTube by an office affiliated to the Japanese cabinet. It will be used as elementary school material to teach children that Dokdo is Japanese territory.
Japan's Takeshima is waiting for us beyond the waves.
The Japanese government has been intensifying its history distortion by making unjustified claims to Dokdo. In 2013, Tokyo distributed a video claiming sovereignty over Korea's islets, and last year it stated in elementary school textbooks that Korea is illegally occupying the territory.
In 1905, the Japanese government reaffirmed its intention to claim sovereignty over Takeshima by a cabinet decision.
It's not stopping there either. Along with its persistent promotional activities, Japan is also aiming to secure the abundant resources the islets offer. Tokyo plans to invest some $18 million to carry out research on methane hydrate in the East Sea. Studies suggest some 600 million tons of the future energy resource is located around Dokdo. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Now, staying with this issue, if you click on the Korean map on the CIA World Factbook today, you will have a hard time finding Dokdo Island. But when you click on the Japanese map, you will find it marked as the Leoncoeur Rocks. Up until now, the CIA had listed Dokdo in both versions of the map as the Leoncoeur Rocks. The factbook says both Seoul and Tokyo claim the rocky islets, which have been Korea-controlled since 1954. The CIA has provided no indication as to why the change was made, but analysts believe it may be the result of some lobbying by Japan, which has been trying to assert its claims to Dokdo through the international community. Seoul's foreign ministry, by the way, says it's making efforts to get the CIA to put Dokdo back on the Korean map. The amount of direct investment coming into Korea from abroad reached $19 billion in 2014. Government officials attribute this record-breaking figure to relaxed regulations and more investor relations efforts. Song Ji-sun tells us more.
Seoul proved to be an attractive investment destination for foreign investors last year, thanks to a wider network of free trade deals and government support for direct investment. According to the Trade Ministry, total foreign direct investment came to $19 billion last year, up more than 30% from a year earlier and topping the previous record set in 2012. By region, investment from China soared nearly 150% to $1.2 billion. China's investment portfolio was diverse as well, ranging from resort complexes to cultural contents and fashion. Investment from the U.S. also edged up, reflecting the economic recovery there, but the amount from Japan shrunk due to the weakening Japanese yen. Foreign direct investment rose across all sectors from manufacturing to services, especially in parts production and business consulting. The Trade Ministry said an easing of regulations coupled with a boost in investment sentiment following recent FTAs encouraged foreign investors to increase their input in Korea. Seoul is now looking to top the $20 billion mark in foreign direct investment in 2015. Song Ji-sun, ARIRANG News.
The number of jobs created last year hit a record high not seen since 2002. But zoom in for a closer look, and it's not all that rosy. Most of that number entails part-time and contract positions and more jobs for those in their 50s and 60s rather than the younger workforce. Connie Kim has the details.
Statistics Korea says an average of 543,000 new jobs were created each month between January and November of 2014, which is the highest in 12 years. The country's employment rate also topped 65% last year, up nearly a percentage point from the previous year. And while the figures are encouraging, the state of the employment market is not. Young people in their 20s and 30s continue to struggle to find work. 20-somethings took up just over a tenth of those who got new jobs last year. Those in their 30s fared worse, recording an average 20,000 less jobs per month. In contrast, people in their 50s and 60s accounted for more than 4/5 of new jobs created in the 11 months. Compounding concerns is the fact that more than a third of the labor market, more than 6 million people, are contract workers. And to tackle that issue, the government has proposed plans to improve working conditions for them. This includes extending the contract period for temporary workers who are 35 and older to 4 years from the current 2. Analysts have also called for fundamental reforms to the current wage system that hands out raises to individuals based on how long they've been working, regardless of the quality of their work. The OECD says Korea has the 6th most complicated procedures among member countries for laying off a regular worker. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
One of the world's biggest tech gadget fairs, the Consumer Electronics Show, will kick off in Las Vegas this week. Now, ahead of this event, our Chun Myung-gil takes a look at what Korea's tech giants have in store.
The 2015 Consumer Electronics Show that kicks off on Tuesday in Las Vegas is a showground for the latest advancements in TV technology. For Samsung Electronics and LG, that means showing off its quantum dot and OLED televisions. The quantum dot technology uses tiny nanocrystals that can provide a wider range of colors than OLED screens, with a much cheaper manufacturing process. Both Samsung and LG are slated to introduce their respective 65-inch versions in Vegas. Samsung's Quantum Dot TV has already won the CES Innovation Award. OLED televisions will also have a place at the table. LG is showcasing its first curved 55-inch ultra-high-definition OLED TV at CES. It comes with a price tag of $3,500. There's also speculation that Samsung will use the Consumer Electronics Show to show off its Tizen TVs. The company plans to run the Tizen operating system on all of its smart, internet-connected TVs starting this year. It will come with several new features, including easier sharing between TV sets and mobile phones through a redesigned interface. 김영길, ARIRANG News.
The birth of ramyeon in Korea came with Samyang foods back in the 60s. Back then, it was considered an instant and quite a cheap way to substitute a meal, but that image has been slowly changing, with more Korean firms trying to tap into overseas markets. Our Shin Se-min has more on the country's instant noodle market in this week's Industry Insight.
The average Korean slurps up on 74 packets of ramen or instant noodles every year. Now that breaks down to 1 packet every 5 days. Now Korean ramen companies are exporting their products to every corner of the world so you can have a taste of Korean ramen.
3 minutes is all you need to get it ready. Widely known for being packed with calories and carbohydrates, but still loved by the masses, Korean ramyeon is embedded in the culture. The concept of ramyeon was first introduced by Samyang Foods in the early 1960s as a means to feed those suffering from food shortages. The packet with high nutrition was a quick solution to many Koreans' malnourished stomachs. In the 60 years since, ramyeon has become a comfort food for many Koreans.
It's a little fattening, but it's hard to resist, so I keep coming back.
It's convenient and tasty. I think I eat ramyeon 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm not sick of it at all.
The flavor of ramyeon can be played around with. It's spicy and you can add in vegetables or seafood for a different taste. It's one of the reasons many consumers like Korean ramyeon.
Domestically, the ramen market grew to $1.8 billion, up 500 million in just past 5 years. Korean ramen makers didn't stop there. They're expanding overseas. The noodles can now be found in some 120 countries worldwide.
Ramyeon itself takes up 18% of all agricultural and food exports. A lot of factors come into play. The Korean wave is one. It caught on in the Chinese market, which is now the largest overseas consumer of Korean ramyeon.
The road to success hasn't been without obstacles. Various regulations in certain countries once kept ramen makers out of foreign markets. Take Turkey, for example. Samyang was barred from introducing its ramen product in the country due to Turkish regulations on the labeling of GMO food products. And in the U.S., strict food import regulations that contain beef hindered the export of Korean-made ramyeon. But that problem was solved by setting up a local factory.
Reaching out to different markets is always a challenge, but we continue to explore customers with different backgrounds. For instance, we are working on entering the African and European markets now.
Samyang Food Corporation wants ramyeon to become a household name throughout the world. And until the company is able to bypass the obstacles to entering the untapped markets, their experimentations with the flavors of Korean ramyeon that will suit foreign palates is an ongoing project. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Indonesia has vowed to continue the search for the wreckage of the AirAsia plane that crashed in the Java Sea 9 days ago. Now, this despite extreme conditions hampering the international recovery effort. Now, to tell us more, Paul Yi is joining us from the News Center. Paul, tell us, what kind of challenges do these search crews face?
Well, Indonesia's military and maritime police say they face unpredictable weather, strong winds, and rough seas in the main search area off the coast of Borneo. All these factors are making life especially difficult for divers and underwater vehicles that are combing the ocean floor. Weather conditions have improved, though, paving the way for the massive salvage operation to resume on this Monday. This as 4 bodies were recovered a day earlier, bringing the confirmed count to 34. Teams are desperately trying to locate the plane's black box as well as the main fuselage, where the remaining victims are believed to be located.
The Indonesian National Army will work hard and cooperate with the countries that are involved. We will not give in to the operation area's environment, which could be windy and hold strong waves. The teams are working hard in spite of their own safety.
Indonesia's weather agency said the plane's engine may have stalled due to icy conditions in the air, citing initial analysis. AirAsia Flight 8501 went missing on December 28th while traveling from Surabaya to Singapore.
And shifting to the Vatican now, Pope Francis has named a group of 20 new cardinals from around the world, and many are hailing this international selection of religious leaders as a move to bring more diversity into the church.
That's right. Pope Francis is definitely making it clear what future direction he wants the 1.2 billion member church to follow, with several of the nominees in this highly elite group hailing from developing countries. Myanmar, Togo, and Cape Verde saw clergy named to the cardinal post for the first time. There are also nominees from New Zealand, Ethiopia, and Panama, representing nearly every continent on the globe. Pope Francis read out the new list of cardinals on Sunday before thousands of visitors at St. Peter's Square.
I have the joy of holding a consistory during which I will appoint 15 new cardinals who will come from 14 countries from every continent. They will show the inseparable bond between the Church of Rome and the particular churches present in the world.
The nominees will be formally installed on February 14th following a meeting of all sitting cardinals at the Vatican's administrative body, or the Roman Curia. It is the second time Francis has selected a fresh group of cardinals since being elected to the top post nearly 2 years ago.
And now let's turn to the U.S. Paul. Police officers in New York and across the country have paid their respects to Officer Wen-Jian Liu, who was killed last month in the line of duty. Take us back. How did this tragic killing take place?
Well, the 32-year-old Chinese American was shot point blank along with his partner Rafael Ramos on December 20th by a gunman who said he was avenging police aggression against black men. Hundreds of rank-and-file policemen as well as politicians and other mourners attended his funeral service in Brooklyn on Sunday. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio paid tribute to the man who fought for, quote, all that is decent and good after immigrating from China with the American dream.
All of our city is heartbroken today. And we've seen it over these last 2 weeks. We've seen the pain that people feel from all walks of life, the sense of appreciation for the sacrifices of this family and of the Ramos family, their understanding for people who have never worn a uniform of how many dangers our men and women in uniform face and what it means for their families.
At the same time, hundreds of uniformed officers outside turned their backs to the video screen showing the mayor. Many in the NYPD have resented what they saw as de Blasio's sympathy for anti-police protesters in recent months.
And finally, in the UK, Paula, Buckingham Palace has strongly denied allegations that Prince Andrew had a sexual contact with an underage girl more than a decade ago. What's the latest development in this case?
Well, following the recent media frenzy, the Royal Palace has stepped up its defense of Prince Andrew, even going so far as to name the alleged victim in the case as Virginia Roberts. She had previously wished to stay anonymous. The strongly worded statement came after 2 Sunday newspapers had published interviews with the woman, who said she was forced to have sexual relations with the Duke of York. Among the other figures named in the U.S. lawsuit include famed Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. He has denied the allegations, calling them absolutely false and fabricated.
I don't know this woman. I never had sex with her or any other below-age woman or any woman having any association with Jeffrey Epstein. I wasn't in the places at the times that she alleges. If Prince Andrew is as innocent as I am, and I must of course presume he is, he should be fighting back in the way that I'm fighting back.
The alleged crimes took place between the years 1999 and 2002 in London, New York, and a private Caribbean island owned by American billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. A court in Florida is reviewing the lawsuit involving Epstein, who was jailed for soliciting a minor for prostitution. Charity?
All right, Paula, let's leave it there for now. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you back here in just about 2 hours.
Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Kim Bo-kyung with your weather updates. We kicked off the week with smoggy conditions nationwide and finest levels have risen to 95 micrograms per cubic meter here in Seoul, which is twice the average. But some good news that toxic particles will wash away as snow or showers fall overnight. Rain is forecast to hit Seoul first before spreading to other parts of the country, while up to 7 centimeters of snow is expected for Gyeonggi province, where temperatures remain low. Tomorrow's morning low is set to dip to -4 degrees, which is approximately 3 degrees lower than today. And it looks like daytime highs here in the capital will remain below zero. On to tomorrow's ratings. Seoul will mix it to -1, Daegu and Gwangju hit 7. On to other regions. Jeju reaches 10, Dokdo hits 8, Mount Kumgang dips to -6. Those are the updates I have for you now, and back to you, Teddy.
Bo-kyung, thank you very much. And that will do it for this edition of ARIRANG News. Thanks for watching, and join us again in about 90 minutes' time for Primetime News. See you then.